and welcome to Grow, Make, Cook. This week has seen a real change in the weather, and while it is still technically summer, the days are feeling short and it's getting cooler. Yesterday was a top of 17 degrees and today it's more like 15. Brrr!
Bok, I'm Mandy O. This is Grow, Make, Cook, and welcome to my garden. I grew up in Australia in a permaculture family, but after we got married, Mr. O and I moved here to his home country of Croatia. I am a passionate and hands-on homemaker and gardener, and I love life's simple pleasures. So join me on my journey, and together we can learn to grow, make, and cook.
This is the first week in September, o Rujan. September is such a lovely time in the garden. There is so much to harvest and the pickings are rich and full and varied. We have those beautiful golden tomatoes and little cherry tomatoes and herbs, and it feels really abundant and glorious. But there is a few little things that have been happening with my tomatoes. And the first one is this. It's splitting. And this happens when me, or the weather, is creating some really uneven water in the soil. And so these guys just burst open because they go from having a little bit of water to too much. But, they still taste delicious.
Yeah, they're not looking very good, are they? No, not looking very good. Okay, Toaster. The other thing that we've harvested a few of, but are really, well, they're not looking very good anymore, are my carrots. They've been a little bit on the short side. There you go, there's another one. They're a bit twisty and a bit dumpy. And I think that's because I transplanted these. So when I put these in the ground, I had sown them into a seed tray. And the result is that a lot of my, oh there we go, there's another one. Oof, very, very twisty. That's almost good enough to win a strange and humorous vegetables award. But they'll still taste okay, and we need to finish eating them up. The reason for my harvesting them, oh, that one broke off, it snapped in the soil. Oh. But my reason for my harvesting them now, fairly all close together, I'm not harvesting them as I need them, is that they've started to die back. The leaves have all started to go brown, and some of them have even got this white powdery coating, which tells you that they've got powdery mildew. So there's not enough airflow down here with my carrots. I think the next time, even though I have been told that the tomatoes and carrots together is a good companion planting thing, obviously it is not working for us here. There's just not enough airflow, and the carrots don't do very well, and they've gotten sick, and they haven't grown very strongly. I think I'm trying carrots with something else next year. Whew, left him a bit long, but the harvests are just so rich and varied, and
These ones have been really slow in the getting going. These are my eggplants, and I've actually not grown eggplants before. And I planted them at the right time, and I've fed them, and we've watered them, and there's really only one eggplant to speak of. Here, under the densest part of my eggplant growing experiment, in the middle of all of the other eggplants and by the basil and tomatoes, in the area of garden that I thought I had planted much too thickly, is my single growing eggplant. Perhaps these guys just really like to be a bit crowded. Well, we'll try again next year perhaps, if I can get some seeds. Oof. Down here is my main bunch of picking chives. These are just regular chives, which I adore, but this here is the one that I almost always end up picking from when I come out to get chives. And it's the oldest clump of chives in my garden. These are perennial, so they come back every year, but they've just gotten so massive that they're flopping everywhere and they've become really untidy. And so I need to, if I can, dig them out and replant them. Now, I want to put some in a pot, which I'm going to keep on the balcony for winter use so that it's easy to get to them, and hopefully they'll last a bit longer up where they're protected. But the other thing that I want to do with these chives is to make a sort of little chive hedge, which I'm going to intersperse with my lovely seed-saved calendula and chives. So when they come into flower, it'll have these beautiful purple punky flower heads and these bright yellow flowers. I think it's going to look really happy and high contrast and really fresh together. First I've got to get them out though. When you have a great big clump of a perennial plant like this, something like chives, it's quite important that periodically, every few years, I'd say maybe 3 or 4, you divide it up like this. And it might look like I'm being really ruthless and brutal, ripping these guys apart and digging at them with my trowel, but they'll be fine. A lot of these perennial plants are much tougher than people give them credit for, and they'll take quite a bit. The other thing that doing this will do is really invigorate the plants. So they get quite congested, as you can see. That's really dense. There's no space at all between these plants. And dividing them can give them new room to grow. Chives are a herb that I really adore. I really can't get enough of just plain old regular chives. It's that lovely rich oniony flavour, and they're full of good things for you. They're a real must-have in my garden. And so dividing them up like this is just going to give me a whole lot of lovely new plants that will allow me to expand my stock, because who doesn't want plants for free, right? Another thing that I love about jobs like this, it gives you a great big space back in my garden bed, ready to be used for something else. So across here is where I want to put this nice long sweep of sort of calendula and then chives and calendula and chives in like a kind of, not one-on-one, but in a nice sort of scattery sweep rather than a row. I want this to look like it's fluid and part of the garden. So what I'm doing is obviously starting with some holes. And because this garden slopes, I'm actually going to plant them all leaning slightly uphill. So when I plant them, let me just grab one of these calendulas to show you, is I'm going to plant them slightly on an uphill lean like that, so that the plants lean up into the soil that way, so that then as they flop, they'll sort of straighten up, or at least that's the theory. I have to see how that goes. It's quite an impressive sweep of calendula and chives that I've been able to plant up here. It goes from here all the way across the top here. So it should give me a nice continuous flow and look through the garden. It should really help with the kind of cohesion and the way that a garden looks finished when things flow into the others, because I've got more chives further up in the garden bed. So this will kind of bring them along, which I'm really excited about. But for now, just watering all these guys in. And then with my last little clump of chives, I'm going to pop these guys into a pot. Now I've already half filled this pot with compost, and then I've just holding them up and then backfilling around the roots until I get up to about the point where he was in the soil before. And you can see that where it gets all dark on this line here. So just keep backfilling gently, and this guy will need feeding. So chives in a pot can be quite hungry, and they'll want quite a bit of fertilizer. So what I'm going to use is that Cooperativa feed, that one that's nice and high in nitrogen, to make lots of lovely, rich, soft, delicious chives. Yum. And that just about does that job. It's really important when I've torn up these chives and divided them up and given them all a bit of a root trauma. It's going to be really important in the next few days to come through and harvest the chives. And this is because when you've taken a lot off of the roots down below, it helps the plant to kind of bounce back more quickly, to chop a lot of the top off as well. So in the next couple of days, I am going to have to pick quite a lot of chives. In fact, basically every chive I've planted today will need a haircut to about half its height, like this, about there, so that it has a much better chance of holding on to its water and establishing its roots down deep into the soil. But I think that's probably about all we've got time for today. So if you like what we're doing, please like the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you want notifications, use the bell icon below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, do widzenia.